Hey, this is a quick insight into CBAM. In this video, I'm going to tell you who must comply with CBAM, what is the timeline of CBAM, and also I'm going to give you a quick outlook and my personal recommendation. So let's have a look. Okay, so who has to report under CBAM? So CBAM, the Carbon Border Adjustment Mechanism, is actually quite simple to understand because all companies that import specific goods, and those goods are aluminium, iron, steel, cement, fertilizer, electricity and hydrogen, and do that with a value of over 150 euros, they then have to report under CBAM. And this is not like other reforms where it depends on the company size. So this could be a very small company, but if they import any of those goods in a value of over 150 euros, then they have to report on that. And the idea is a little bit of CBAM that we have now all the sustainability regulations in the European market, and that we balance this out so that that someone that imports that where we don't have a regulatory effect on them, that we protect the European market a little bit and then have so at the border basically an additional fee on carbon. And the process of the CBAM started in 2023, where for the last quarter companies had to give their first CBAM report, and in 2024 it develops a little bit further, so that in Q3 the companies have to, for the first time, also use specific emissions data, so that they don't just use estimates, but they can or should also use specific emissions data. And this is like part of a transitional phase that goes until the end of 2025. So during that time, companies have to do quarterly CBAM reports and have to develop into that and have a little bit of time to adjust to that and get more of those specific emissions data. And then starting in the beginning of 2026, CBAM then becomes a yearly report, and also the emission trading system starts. So then the real CBAM starts, and until then we are in the transition phase to get companies prepared for that and to know what goods are affected and how they get specific data and how they set up the whole system for themselves. And the outlook of that really is that we are trying to not only protect the European market, and make sure that if we are here really carefully looking on carbon emissions, that if companies outside of the EU, that they also have to take care of their carbon emissions, and we do that with the Carbon Border Adjustment Mechanism. But the idea could also be that through that we develop a carbon club, so that multiple regions are all developing their own CBAM. And through that, carbon gets taxed everywhere, and we can then develop towards a more sustainable future. And I know that one can be a little bit skeptical when it comes to that, and I'm too. But the example of Turkey actually shows that this can have a good effect, because since the EU announced the CBAM regulation and how this is going to be, Turkey is now looking at this, and they with their heavy industry, they're exporting goods that are affected by CBAM to the EU, and then the EU would basically put an extra tax on that and take money because it's carbon intensive stuff. But Turkey doesn't rather wants to take the money themselves than have the EU take the money. So now they are developing their own CBAM, and because under CBAM regulations, it's that if there's already a carbon tax on the product, this is going to be less of a carbon tax than in Europe. So basically, whether Turkey is super sustainability ambitious or not, I don't know. But just financially, it makes sense for Turkey to add a carbon or a CBAM themselves, because then they can collect the money and the EU doesn't collect the money. And this could lead into some sort of a carbon club where more countries and regions are actually making sure to tax carbon. Now a little bit about my recommendation, because the topic is already quite complex, and in the future, especially with the trading system and all of that, it will get more complex. So in my opinion, it's super important to build up a good system now, because yes, like to just like upload some of the data right now and to know like, okay, those goods are relevant and we report on that right now. This can be more or less easily done, depends on your company, of course. But there's a lot more behind that needs to be developed. So I think it's really, really important to like set up a good system for this that also is prepared for the future. And this is also why we set up the Navigator in a way that we are talking to a lot of companies and we are getting their experiences from companies, because it's so crucial right now for companies to really understand this and understand how everything works, and to set up a good system. And yeah, we just believe that with the Navigator, we are actually like supporting with exactly that to understand the topic. So then companies can take an educated decision on like how they want to set up the process and how they want to overcome the challenges that are ahead of that. So I hope this proves very valuable. And if you have any questions, please let me know.